This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 354, The One Ingredient Necessary for Achieving Financial Independence, Part 2, by Sam of FinancialSamurai.com. And I am Dan, the guy who reads to you each weekday from some of the best blogs on personal finance. And welcome back to another episode of the show, and a big thank you today to the Alt MBA for sponsoring this episode. Are you looking to draw a bigger box for yourself? The Alt MBA Workshop is an intensive leadership and management workshop to help you do just that. This is for people who are itching to develop and make a bigger impact. They're now accepting applications for their upcoming session, and to find out more, visit altmba.com/optimalfinance. Now, let's hear today's post as we optimize your life. The One Ingredient Necessary for Achieving Financial Independence, Part 2, by Sam of FinancialSamurai.com. Society. Believe it or not, as a minority, it's a little harder to get ahead when there is hardly anybody who looks like you in leadership positions. For example, I worked in Asian equities, and for half my career, all my bosses and bosses' bosses were white. When I lived in various Asian countries growing up, I was the majority. Everything felt normal. But when I arrived in Virginia as a high school freshman, the contrasting reality of being a minority instead of a majority became clearly apparent. Overnight, it seemed I had to address stereotypes, listen to racial slurs, and endure various forms of discrimination that I had never encountered while living in Taiwan, Malaysia, or Japan. You learn to just suck it up after a while and move forward. I feared being pigeonholed as an Asian guy who was only good at math and science. Therefore, I worked extra hard on my athletics and went to a liberal arts school to become a more well-rounded person. I wasn't going to let my minority status keep me from achieving the lifestyle I wanted. But growing up, I feared society would never let me be who I really wanted to become. Money. Ever since I lived in Malaysia as an 11 to 13-year-old, I've been hyper-aware of the haves and the have-nots. To see some of my friends live so poorly really wigged me out as a kid. I often questioned why life was so unfair for so many people. As a result, I made a promise never to take any job or financial opportunity for granted. I wanted my kids to grow up being able to study and play rather than being forced to work to help support the family. After you've achieved your retirement number, will you continue to work as hard? For most folks, I think they may decide to take things down a notch. For me, however, I've made it a priority to press on, as if I am always starting from scratch. Growing up, seeing poverty on a daily basis makes one afraid of one day losing everything. You're always wondering when your luck will run out, and the longer you go without any unfortunate events, the more you brace yourself for cataclysmic disaster. Physical fitness. At age 40, despite already having sufficient money and a family, the reason why I haven't let myself go is not due to pride or vanity, but because I fear health problems and an early death. I know way too many people who have come down with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, strokes, heart disease, fatty liver disease, and diabetes due to poor diet and obesity. My obese friend told me that because he doesn't fear an early death and has no family depending on him, he's happy to eat whatever he wants. He enjoys food more than he enjoys the chance at a healthier life. If I die early, so be it. I'm not going to deny myself my greatest pleasure just for the unknown chance of living until 90, he says. I know people who are vegans or who aggressively count calories. Wow, how they restrict their lifestyles for health. Ironically, those in the worst shape seem to have the most courage to live the good life without caring what anybody else thinks. As a parent, the number one fear I have is not being able to live long enough to see my son grow up to be a happy, independent man. Therefore, I'm on a mission to fit into my 33-inch jeans for the next 25 years. Harness your fears for a better life. As time passes, I've been able to be less afraid. Academics, work, and societal fears are behind me now. The fear of not being a good blogger is also fading since I'm 8 years into a 10-year commitment. I probably won't fall into poverty due to the financial buffers I've created for my financial buffers. However, this doesn't stop me from trying to earn more since my fear of poverty is so deep-rooted. My greatest fear now is not being a good enough father. I pray I will have the patience to teach him how to always think of others first. I hope I have the kindness to be encouraging and never critical. One day, maybe my son will tell me that he couldn't have asked for a better dad. But before that day comes, I must earn his love. Don't let fear paralyze you. Instead, use fear as motivation to do better. The fear in our heads is often greater than reality. I found this to be true time and time again. You just listened to part 2 of the post titled The One Ingredient Necessary for Achieving Financial Independence by Sam of FinancialSamurai.com. And speaking of harnessing your fear and using it for motivation, check out the Alt MBA Workshop. 4 times a year, the workshop brings together 2 groups of around 100 leaders from different industries and areas of expertise. You work on 13 projects for a month, giving and getting feedback and actually putting concepts into practice to make them a habit. There are no lectures or videos. It's rolling up your sleeves and working in groups with people who want the same thing as you. It is challenging, but the alumni will tell you it's definitely worth it. Plus, it has a 96% completion rate. Come by their site to learn more. Go to altmba.com/optimalfinance, and for special consideration, mention this podcast. Again, that's altmba.com/optimalfinance, and thank you to the Alt MBA Workshop for their support in helping to keep this podcast going. And that'll do it for today. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll be back on Friday for our show tomorrow. That's where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this podcast, but also Optimal Living Daily, the show where I read to you from even more blogs covering finance, productivity, minimalism, personal development, and more from incredible bloggers like Derek Sivers, Zen Habits, Mark and Angel, The Minimalists, and all the ones you hear on this show too. So if you enjoyed today's episode and like taking amazing blogs on the go, come on over to Optimal Living Daily and subscribe to that one too. And together, we'll start optimizing your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Finance Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.